Next from Springfield, Senator Sam McCann, who was recently re-elected, discusses Governor Rauner's campaign against him because of a bill of the governor's that McCann did not support. This runs about 15 minutes.
Senator Sam McCann, thanks for joining us again on the All Night Channel, and congratulations on winning your primary election this week.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today, and I appreciate those that congratulatory remarks.
As people around the state may not have followed, but if you're in Central, no, you couldn't have gotten away from all the commercials. You had voted against, well, not so much against the governor, but you had voted on a bill known as the AFSCME bill that took a position different than what the governor wanted. And because of that, he and others got a primary opponent to run against you, and they put, I don't know what the actual number, but a lot of dollars into defeating you in the primary. Well, we thought it would be interesting to just get your take as a sitting senator. What does that say to you? What impact does it have on the legislative process if the governor is going to come down and basically say, if you don't vote my way on these bills, we're going to come out and try our best to get you out of the legislature?
First, I think there's a couple of questions in there, and I'll try to answer them all, but I also want to address the fact that I know that sometimes it's referred to as the AFSCME bill, sometimes it's referred to as I voted with the Democrats, sometimes it's referred to as I voted against the governor. I've heard it referred to in all those ways and a few more, but really the way I characterized that vote, it was Senate Bill 1229. It was a labor arbitration bill. That's what it was, very simply. It didn't do anything more, didn't do anything less than provide for arbitration for those state employees who don't already enjoy it. Many state employees already have arbitration available to them. This expanded it to the rest of the state employees who didn't already enjoy it. That being said, I didn't vote with the Democrats. I didn't vote against the governor, and I didn't vote for AFSCME. I voted the way my constituents contacted me and asked me to. So we live in a representative republic, a constitutional representative republic, and I believe that if the elected representatives here in government never listen to their constituents, then you don't really live. We don't have an active constitutional representative republic. So, and I also know that we have to balance it with our consciences, and we have to balance it with common sense and wisdom. And so it seemed like a reasonable bill. I balanced that. I married that to my conscience. I thought it was a balanced bill. And so I listened to my constituents. I had thousands of constituents ask me to vote for it, and I literally had a few dozen constituents ask me not to vote for it. It's representative government in action. And so now to answer your questions about how does that affect things, I think the Constitution is very clear that we have elections. This is, again, it's representative government. How do you get here as a representative? You have to win an election. So to me, campaigning and politics, the political process, is constitutional. Now, none of us really like politics as it stands today in the 21st century. It shouldn't be this dirty, it shouldn't be this nasty. But the concept of running for office and thusly a campaign season occurring, in my opinion, is very constitutional.
Let me if I might jump in. Before the vote, were you or other members of the Republican Senate caucus warned that there would be a retribution against you if you didn't vote with the governor's position? Let's take that first question.
Well, I would say I don't know about I'm not going to speak for other members of the caucus. I know it was made very apparent to all of us that he didn't want us to vote that way. And yes, I'm not sure, I don't remember 100% whether it was he or someone on his staff who specifically said, if you vote with us, you won't have a primary. But again, I'm not sent here to be weak. I'm not sent here to not be courageous. I'm not sent here to be a rubber stamp. I mean, I'm sent here, I have a charge, right? I'm sent here, I take an oath of office to be the voice of the people of the 50th District in the state Senate. And so I knew full well.
Did you make that position? And that was going to be my follow-up question. So they came and said, basically, if you vote with us, you're not going to have a primary opponent, which is either they expressly said, like someone in the governor's office, or implied it, that if you don't vote for us, we're going to get a primary opponent and try to have you not be the Republican nominee anymore.
Right. Well, and so
How do you react when you're, some people might say that's an intimidation. We might, by the way, it's not just the governor. Speaker Madigan just ran a primary opponent against Representative Ken Duncan. Representative Ken Duncan lost. So they were both interesting, one in the House, you in the Senate, these test cases of, some would say whether or not, are there two puppet masters and pulling the strings of everyone, or, as you're saying, do members of the legislature have the right and should they have the ability to vote their district without retribution?
Yeah, well, again, I think it comes back to I could have avoided the primary, and I know that I could have avoided the primary, and of course anybody would want to if they could, but I take my oath too seriously to not represent my district. So I knew that I had to listen to my district. I had made too many promises to too many people at their doors, on parade routes, and all across the district that I would remain true to the district, not parties, not party leadership, not anyone else, but to the district. And so is it fair? I guess it depends on at what level, because again, I think we've established just a few moments ago that campaigning and politics is constitutional. But to what level do you take it, I think, is where it becomes a question of how fair it is or not. Do I think that it should be done with impunity? No. Do I think that it should be character assassination? No. That's ridiculous, that essentially people are out to destroy you, to defame you, just because you don't vote the way they want and because you voted the way the people wanted. I listen to the people of my district. It's representative government in action. I take an oath to listen to those people. That's part of the oath, is to do what's right by the people. And so to me, if we're going to say that all we're going to do is come here and be in lockstep with the party leadership, if that's all we're going to do, well, that's unconstitutional. The Constitution doesn't talk about that. The Constitution talks about being true to the people who sent you here, not to the party leadership. So we understand why we have parties, we understand why we have elections, we understand why we have campaigns. To what extent it got carried, I think, is what became terribly offensive to most people who watched that campaign transpire.
As we tape this, it's Thursday. The election was just on Tuesday. What have you had any communication with the governor's office since the election, one, and two, what would be your approach to dealing with the governor's office? Or would you imagine their approach would be, if you wanted to get some bill passed to fund a library in your district or something else?
Well, I haven't had any contact with them, but I don't know that, the House is not here this week. The Senate's in, and it's a shortened week. We were here yesterday and today. They've already canceled tomorrow. So I don't believe there's been a lot of interaction between the governor's office necessarily and any member of the Senate, and again, the House isn't in. So I look forward to having a very professional relationship with the governor and the governor's office. As a professional, I can work with anybody if they want to work with me. So I will extend every olive branch at every turn in order to make it known that I want to work with the governor. I want to work with his staff. I want to work with his office. But I'll never forget the fact that I don't work for the governor. I want to work with him. I respect the governor. He's here constitutionally. The people sent him here to do a job, and I agree with him on many issues. I'm a co-sponsor on 60% of the turnaround agenda. So I want to work.
I was going to say, it's not philosophically like you're a far left guy and philosophically opposed, which I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I would imagine that you would feel, I can let you speak for yourself, but in other words, when you are with the governor any number of times, again, how do you feel that you're getting so lambasted for opposing him on one particular bill?
I think that's where, the governor's been in office a little over a year now, and I think the governor and his staff are feeling their way through this process, and I respect that. And so, I voted with every Republican. I voted with the governor and every Republican last year to balance the FY15 budget. That was a tough vote. It did some things that not very many Democrats or Republicans, either one here, wanted to see done, but we did it. It was a bitter pill, but we took it. We did it. I voted with the caucus and with the governor on many issues. But at the end of the day, My oath is to protect and defend the Constitution of the state and the nation, and to do what's best for the people who sent me here, the people. I'm duly elected to represent those people, just as all my colleagues in the General Assembly are duly elected, just as the governor is duly elected. And so we all should come here and treat each other with respect and understand that just because that 99% sometimes is good enough. You know, I've been with the governor, I've been with the caucus 99% of the time. And hopefully after this election, I hope that we can move forward in a very professional manner and get the work of the people done. We don't have a budget in this state, and it's actually costing us more money. If we had a budget, we would be saving money right now. Not having a budget is costing the taxpayers of Illinois more dollars to not have a budget. So we need to do the work of the people.
Let me just close out here, because as we had talked off camera, in your campaign for the primary election, there was almost no other issue except for you being lambasted that you had voted against the governor and all the charges that were thrown, and you trying to defend yourself. If it had been a normal campaign and you went out to talk to the people and said, here's my vision for the future of Illinois, for what issues we should be focusing on, let's give you a chance to have that conversation. What issues would you want to be championing?
You know, thank you for asking that, because you're right. I looked forward to debating and discussing those issues with my opponent throughout the campaign and never got an opportunity. Not only did it not come up from the other side of from that campaign, it's amazing how little the press actually held anybody accountable to those standards either. But I guess that's a parenthetical at this point. So the number one issue I think facing the people of Illinois right now is jobs. I mean, the access to good paying jobs. It seems like the middle class way of life is evaporating before our very eyes. So when I talked with people in 2009, when I first started running for the 2010 election, or when I talk to them today, the number one issue for them is access to good paying jobs with benefits so that they can raise their family, so that they can have a shot at the American dream. And so that all being said, job creation, and I think one of the ways you achieve that is a good capital bill. We need to be investing in our infrastructure. We've got to reinvest in our roads and our bridges. They're falling apart. It's going to be presenting us with a very dangerous situation here in the next couple of years. We also have other infrastructure needs that we need to be investing in. If we would take up these infrastructure needs and invest in them, that would actually in the process create some really good paying jobs, and those good paying jobs would cause people to buy cars and buy houses and remodel houses and buy carpet and stop and buy donuts and coffee and all the things that invigorate an economy. And so it's kind of a twofer. We get two for one there. We invest in the infrastructure, we get the infrastructure, and we help stimulate the economy in a very positive way, good jobs. And so that's what we have to have equitable education funding. We have to take on the task of equitably transferring state funds to school districts around the state, like I say, in an equitable way.
All right, Senator Sam McCann, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.